You are listening to the Red Pill Chronicles, where we help awakening souls deal with the blue pill world. I'm your host, John Dennison, and together we'll explore how to take an inner approach to your outer affairs so you can build a better life and a better world to live it in. Greetings, my friend. John here. I hope all is well for you today. I am recording this podcast the day before President Trump announces his new Supreme Court justice to replace Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. As I said, this whole situation, I call it the Ginsburg follies. If you remember from my last podcast, I discussed that at length. It had to do with abortion and the whole range of issues involved for you as an awakening soul throughout the process of watching this circus unfold. But today, we're going to continue that thread that we were discussing, and which is finding peace at the intersection of politics and religion. We obviously know that the judicial hearings will be focused on politics. That's the line in the sand that both sides seem to draw, that if it's going to benefit the other side, they're not going to consider it. So therefore, they take these extreme positions designed to try to drag all of us over toward one side or the other. In the Democrats' instance, they're trying to drag us to the right, to the left, and to the Republicans are dragging us to the right. But the attachments to those political stances are very, very similar to those that you see in religion. There is very little rationality or consciousness involved in the selection of the side you're on. It's one that more kind of develops based upon the life you've had, the people you've been influenced by, the things that have occurred in your life that have led you to where you are now. Well, we see that certainly in the political arena, where Democrats and Republicans have banded together, beholden to their sides for providing them funding and a support network behind them, but in return forcing them all to go along with the party line, whichever side of the battle they're on. And it's very, very hard to expect any of them to step outside that role to find another way to work for peace. But then again, we don't have politics for peace. We have politics so people can fight over who's going to win and determine the course of our common affairs in the future. That's what we're dealing with here. But we're not. This appointment to replace Justice Ginsburg is not just about politics. Though we did see politics very much in play in the Kavanaugh hearings a couple of years ago. But the issues here are probably going to be a little less, can't say they're going to be less manufactured by the Democrats. They managed to trot out a number of witnesses that couldn't substantiate their claims. They seem to do that a lot, leading many to the impression that they are manufactured witnesses that are coming forth simply for the political and personal exposure that it offers them, rather than to actually shed true information that will reveal something of importance about a candidate, or the nominee, I should say. It's not a candidate here. But the political landscape looks like it's going to be coming into the realm where these politics are going to be intersecting with religion. And that is where we all should take note, because obviously the United States was founded upon a principle that there would be no centralized religion. There would be no determination that the state would be setting its own religion that everyone else would be forced to adhere to. In the Constitution, we have protections for the practice of one's religion, but there have always been questions about certain religions when they, or people that practice certain religions when they get into governmental service. I'm bringing this up today because the probable nominee that everyone seems to be talking about is Amy Coney Barrett or something like that. Amy Barrett Cohen, I don't know. You'd think I would be more up to date on all these names, but I've been terrible with names throughout my lifetime, and I seem to be getting worse in my old age. So I can't. Anyway, this Amy Barrett, she seems to be one of the sweetest people I've ever seen put up for nomination. There was an interview of her by Notre Dame at Notre Dame last year that it talked absolutely nothing about her political stances. It had to do with her and her family and her decisions in the course of how her life unfolded. And I'm just telling you, this woman just seemed to be really, really nice. And the thought that popped into my head is, she's too nice to be put into this process. I almost cried thinking about the fact of what she would have to do facing this buzzsaw that's going to be the political machine of the Democrats that are going to be unifying to try to take her down, both inside the hearing chambers as well as outside of the streets and in their aligned newspapers and all the other forces that they have, including social media. So this judge, if she happens to be the one whose appointment, is going to raise an issue of religion. Not because she's going to bring it up, but because she is a Roman Catholic, and a very devout and practicing Roman Catholic, and has been her whole life. I mean, obviously she must be, since she went to Notre Dame, which is a very well known for, or at least in Catholic circles, for providing a quality religious education with a strong moral foundation. Well, the reason that the religious wars are coming back before us now, I mean, the first time I remember it in my lifetime was back when John Kennedy ran for president. And people were concerned that Kennedy was he was Catholic also, and it was concerned that he would be beholden to the Pope, or that the Pope would be giving him direction or instructions, or having to follow the dogma to the detriment of the needs of the country. Well, we know that didn't happen. But there has been this fear by some that just don't understand spiritual beliefs and spiritual connections. Our nation has been moving away from the connection with God and Spirit for the last 50 years. And it hasn't been a very good result for our country in terms of the deterioration of an agreed moral or ethical foundation or structure upon which our society will be built. All of the different institutions upon which that morality was previously based, such as the family, have been so much eroded that they're totally unrecognizable as compared to what they used to be. The family has been redefined now, trying to justify the way that the courts have and legislatures have ruled in divorce, which has been making divorce available to virtually anyone who wants it. And as a lawyer who has practiced both before a lot of these laws came into effect and afterwards, I can tell you that while the law seems to have changed, and the results have been modified a little bit, what it has done is facilitated the breakup of families. And I'm not here to say it's either good or bad. It's not good to be in a relationship with somebody that you can't stand to look at anymore, much less listen to or live with. But sometimes there has to be more of an effort put into trying to keep things together. There used to be provisions in the law prior to no-fault divorce where one party had to prove that the other party did something wrong. Everyone thinks that was to penalize the innocent party, to making them prove the guilt. But from a societal standpoint, it really had very little to do with whoever the individuals were involved. It had to do with the societal interest to try to keep families together, which is as we have seen play out over these last 50 years, has been a major factor in the deterioration of the moral foundations of our country. Moral foundations which have broken down to a point now where people are ready to kill each other in the streets, and sometimes are. Supposedly over issues involving race, where many of the people involved that are doing the rioting and looting are not even black. It's not even black versus white. It's whites against whites. So race seems to be less of a factor in most of these, or much of this, than it is a dissatisfaction with the way the system operates. And really what this is reflecting is an impatience, an inability of individuals to recognize that change is always happening, but change takes time. And they don't like the way the changes that they've seen unfold are progressing. They want to see it happen now. But if you've seen it over a period of time, the changes that have occurred in our country are transformative. The last 100 years have completely changed the course of society, and we have not yet reached our equilibrium. We have not yet found a foundation on which to move forward together. One event in the last hearing, where 2-3 years ago, when Barrett was nominated and subsequently approved voted into the Supreme Court, Dianne Feinstein had raised the issue of her religious beliefs and talked about them being dogma. Now, dogma refers to beliefs that are really unprovable, that are accepted on the basis of faith. And so that those kind of beliefs, or the laws and the teachings that are based upon those, are in question by what she's saying. Now, Dianne Feinstein is Jewish. They have very strong dogmas and beliefs of their own that are not based in tangible reality. They believe in one God. But Dianne Feinstein wasn't talking about her religion. She was approaching it from a secular standpoint, from the standpoint that the Democrats have been working toward for the last 50 years, which is the driving religion altogether out of our nation. The attack upon religion has been significant, not only because many of the religions have tended to support the conservatives over the years, because they have been less inclined to throw away their foundations and to adopt something different just because it's there or offered, or someone else says, hey, look at this great new way that we can live together. When those new ways haven't really proven out, haven't stood the test of time, much less demonstrated that they're going to actually work. Particularly the evangelical right has supported Republicans over the years, and I can understand why Democrats would want to attack them, because if they can attack the religious foundations, then they have an ability to not win on many fronts at the same time. So I'm expecting that we're going to see this hearing on Amy Coney Barrett, if it is her, is going to turn a lot on religious issues, religion, and in particular a religious position that is taken by the Catholic Church and most Catholics, which is anti-abortion. And abortion has become the holy grail of political conflict over the years, because there has been no ability to discuss it. There actually were efforts in this country to discuss it and to work it through and try to arrive at some sort of workable solutions in the different states back in the 70s, before Roe v. Wade. But carrying on the tradition of the Warren Court, the Supreme Court decided it was going to make a ruling on the issue of privacy, or actually drawing on privacy to extend a constitutional right in order to achieve a result that would permit women to legally abort their children. From a legal standpoint, that wasn't good law, because The area in which they were entering was one that had traditionally been reserved to the states. It was not within a federal power. And the remedy that they were offering was one of a universal determination or universal ruling over the states, when those, again, the states are the ones who were to have made that bar. Regardless of whether you're a federalist or a nationalist, isn't really the issue here. What is the issue is what's the future of Roe v. Wade. And that's what it's all going to be about. But in order to attack Roe v. Wade, they're going to simultaneously try to attack her on two fronts. One, I would expect they would. One of which is to address the abortion issue directly. The fact that she has taken a stance on being, I believe she's taken a stance on being pro-life, though she has never, ever said anything about addressing Roe v. Wade. If anything, she has said that Roe v. Wade was not, that the issue with Roe v. Wade now is not one of whether there is to be abortions allowed in this country, but whether they were to be funded federally for those who don't have the funds to get one for themselves. In other words, they've created a personal right. Now they're forcing those that do not want or recognize such a right to contribute their tax dollars to making it happen for those ladies who cannot afford it or do not want to. And we've seen Planned Parenthood has become a major business, both in terms of providing abortions and selling body parts and big-time raising money. It has become a political machine just as much or more as it has become a health provider. And it has provided valuable health services for many, many women. And I'm not questioning the value of the services. I'm not even questioning the value of the organization, though I do believe that their activities have crossed the line when they get into the political discussions, especially when they're giving back some of the monies that are being donated to them to protect the campaigns and their benefactors in Congress and the government. Anyway, we're talking today about peace as it relates to this intersection of religion and politics. And what we're having right now is a major war that's just about to erupt. But we've had these before. This is nothing new. It's not an end to an American society just because parties disagree or one side wants to put their people in place so that there's a better chance for their kind of policies to be enacted. I mean, this is how the Democrats have put us in this situation over the years, is that they were unable to address and pass their programs through the legislatures. So what they did was they packed the courts and used the courts to address the issues and to rule on these issues, even to the extent of usurping the power of the states in order to carry forward their plan for what they wanted for the society. And as you'll see with any do-gooders, sometimes it does good. Sometimes it has disastrous unintended consequences. And in this situation, Roe v. Wade, while it may have a good consequence in terms of allowing those women who need abortions to have them, it has had a disastrous consequence because it opened the door to allow them to continue expanding how and when and who can have those abortions and how they're going to be paid for. But more than that, it opened our country up to this tremendous fight that has been raging behind the scenes for 50 years and is now going to spill over to the airwaves for everybody to see and to take sides in. Now, you're going to be hearing things on both sides. They're going to make it seem like either Amy Barrett or whoever the nominee is going to either totally gut, with her there, is going to totally gut the provisions of Roe v. Wade, and that women will never, ever be able to abort another pregnancy again. Versus the other side is going to tell you about the horrors of abortion and how many babies and the 40 million babies that have been killed and how terrible it is to have partial birth abortions and all of these kind of things. And they're all going to be tugging on your heartstrings. But those heartstrings aren't being tugged on to get you to feel bad. They're trying to get you riled up, to get you to join in their fight. Now, these sides are playing a role. That's the way we've designed this dualistic system, that where we have one side going against another, and as those battles are resolved or won, then our country zigzags through history. Now, we have found it a relatively satisfactory means, though there have been times when those zigzags have not worked out so well. Anyway, the object for us as awakening souls, as we're watching this, is how do we find peace in the midst of this conflict? Now, I want you to understand they're all fighting because they have a fear that whoever goes in is not going to work to help manifest their visions for the future. This is an element of service to self, of control and manipulation of what plays out and who does what, so that they can have a better chance of forcing their programs down everyone else's throats. And I say they, it means just as much in the Democrats as it does is the Republicans. Republicans would have it be that there would be no abortions. Democrats would have it be that you can abort a child at any time, up to and including the date that they die. So, I know I'm exaggerating there, but it seems they keep pushing it back and pushing it back. I mean, now they've got it so that with the consent of the doctor, they can abort a child after it's been born in some states. It is a line that keeps getting pushed, and conservatives feel it's been pushed way too far. So that's the basis behind the fight. But we have to find peace. We have to find peace. It's peace that is going to allow us to maintain our equilibrium and to stay in balance so that we can continue to draw upon the light and give as much love to everybody as we can. But when we get wrapped up in the battle, it's real hard to find that. And when you're caught up in it and you can't find peace, it's real hard to love at the same time, too. There will be no manifestation of either side's absolute vision. Mark my words, and I've been watching the court for a long time. The court will never outlaw abortion per se. They may change the rulings or the basis of the rulings. I think they will if they're going to try to get away from that. I think they're going to try to scale it back and work on the margins so that it doesn't continue to be expanded. But in terms of actually terminating this right, this is a smokescreen that's being used to divide us and to keep us fighting with each other. Now, the media companies, we know that they are players in this. They're not only players to try to rile us up. And I mean, they win by us getting tweaked and triggered so that they can get us in the battle, drag us into the fight. That's their job. Their job is to rally the foot soldiers to get out and fight. And we've been seeing that really good. They've been doing a really good job of that since Trump was elected. I mean, they've been doing their very best to make Trump seem like he is absolutely the worst thing in the world, and that if you hate Trump, then you must be aligned with what they want. So it all starts with that Trump hatred and the fear of what he's going to do, how he's going to destroy the world, and that their progressive vision will not be enacted. A progressive vision that just happened to go along with authoritarian rule by bureaucrats and the bureaucratic globalists, as well as the loss of personal freedoms. So there are no heroes in this battle. Maybe Amy Barrett, but like I said, I don't want to see her go into this. She just seems like too sweet of a person, too nice of a person, the kind of person you'd like to know. And to be honest, most of us don't have a political test when we meet new people. We try to judge them based upon the quality of the character that they show in the moment. Okay, then again, if they open their mouth, then we may talk about politics. Maybe we don't find that character quite as appealing. But what we're seeing in the world right now, or at least in our country, is that character is taking a backseat to politics. Character is taking a backseat to the color of your skin, or to whether you're a man or a woman, or to whether you're gay or straight, or any of the other characteristics that are used to divide us. It's important. It's important to realize that consciousness is the tool that's going to enable you to have peace in your time. And it is the spread of consciousness into the public arena which is going to allow people to wake up to the games that are being played and begin to see that the players aren't really doing us much of a favor. This isn't a knock on the system, though there are individuals within the system that use it to their own benefit and that have enriched themselves at our expense. That has got to stop. We have to clean up the system and remove a lot of the powers that have been inappropriately given to the federal government over the years, because we see what they do with them. They run roughshod over our individual rights, like they did with Trump in the election, or last election. Now, I'm not coming down on the side of Trump, though it sounds like it. I think Trump, in many regards, is an asshole. But I also believe that and I have watched the energies happening, that this populism, that swell that he has come up on, has been building for a long time. He is just the result of it. He isn't the cause of it. It is the manifestation of years and years and years of dissatisfaction with how the status quo plays out. And everybody is unhappy with the status quo. Nobody likes the way it is now. And everybody seems to want to fight to impose their view on how it can be. Now, I guess I'm something of a Taoist in that regard, because I think that it's going to play out how it's going to play out. And whether we try to force it one way or another, you can't push the river. It's going to go where it's going to go. The energies that are controlling this are flowing into us and into our world very rapidly. Change is happening. Change is inevitable. The expansion of consciousness is inevitable if we don't kill ourselves in the process. But understand that the fight that we're talking about right now between the Democrats and the Republicans, there is nowhere to run and there is nowhere to hide. There are no political movements available right now where you can take shelter from the two warring parties. We don't have a strong Green Party this year. There was I saw for a while where one of the the professor who was, Brett Weinstein, who was the professor who was targeted at Evergreen College when cancel culture started here in the United States, or something like that they were trying to do, where they were trying to come up with an agreement or an arrangement where those in the middle would try to step forward and put candidates of both parties up, where they would agree to work basically to rule and govern together. Interesting concept. I think we need to have more of those novel discussions. But the populace isn't ready for it. The populace still wants to fight. They're still caught up in their polarities because we live in a dualistic world. And right now, there's very little room in the middle, side to the other. Because in order to balance out one extreme, you got to have the other extreme in the middle. So if one side keeps growing, they got to drag people from the middle farther and farther to the other side. But those dualistic ways are in us. We know that they are. We know that we find ourselves taking sides, but that those sides may vary based upon our position of the moment. Such as you may be a staunch advocate for abortion at this point in your life. But after you've grown a while and raised children and had a chance to participate in society, for going the other route and say, the circumstances are such that you've seen too many horrors of women that have been forced to have babies from rape or other situations. I can't tell you what the triggers are going to be or what's gone into the situation and has brought you to this point. Just letting you know that we cannot protect ourselves from the storm that's out here unless we refuse to get involved, because those energies are coming so hot and heavy that if you even make a remark about one party or a candidate or a nominee or the arguments pro or con, the other side is going to attack you. And if you don't jump on board as enthusiastically as their supporters would have you like, they're going to attack you too. You're going to find that when you are in the middle, you're getting pot shots from both sides. It reminds me, I keep going back to this story of when I was a youth. I was one of those privileged youths. I came from a poor white family out of West Virginia that scraped and scrounged for me to be able to go over to my German class to study German language and civilization in Salzburg, Austria, when I was 15. And I was really privileged from my family because nobody else had ever had anything like that happen in my family on either side. It was really a wonderful experience to be able to have that. Anyway, while I was over there, all the guys getting into knives had all gone off and bought bought knives. Well, they also were drinking. We got a lot of young people that were drinking for the first time in their lives, and we had two guys outside a beer hall that decided they were going to get into a fight. I walk out, and I got two guys squared off with a knife, two guys that were friends of mine. So I decided I was going to stick my nose in and try to stop it. That was not a good idea. They both turned on me with their knives and snarling in their face in anger, and you could just see that it wasn't a situation to try to be in. So I learned rather quickly there that, you don't go butting into other people's fights if you can help it. Now, this is a fight between Democrats and Republicans for the soul of our nation, so to speak. They want to choose the direction we're going to go, particularly with regard to a number of conservative issues that have been run roughshod over for the last 50 years, particularly relating to guns, the right to bear arms, and with regard to abortion, and with regard to a lot of other conservative issues. My personal position is the court shouldn't be legislating from the bench. I'm a strict constructionist. This is what the law says. This is what the Constitution says. This is, you do your best. I don't follow the way that Scalia has the conservative justices thinking and now trying to figure out the original intent of the framers at the time they wrote those provisions of the Constitution. Neither am I one who addresses it from the liberal side or progressive side, which is, there's a problem, they want to fix it, they're going to bend it over, they're going to bend it to make it work for whatever that is they're trying to accomplish. And I understand their thoughts too, but that ain't the way the law has been written. It's just the way that the Supreme Court has been interpreting it for the last 50 years, which we're going to stretch the powers of the government in order to try to fix the problem in the manner that they see fit. It's not my job to decide. As a lawyer, it was just my job to work with whatever the positions they came up with, and that's where I was. I didn't practice in the area of con law, but it came up quite a bit in various types of actions, just not enough to become an expert at it. But understand, we cannot protect ourselves from the chaos that's happening in this country. Perhaps we can lay low like we're doing now in this lockdown of COVID. But that's not going to last forever. I mean, people are getting restless. And the science isn't supporting a lot of what they're forcing us to do, like masks. I just read yesterday where, Belgium is removing their mask law. They're getting rid of the mask requirement. The Netherlands already had. And that's because the science was not supporting the mask is making a significant difference. Also, people are getting upset with the COVID situation because of the death toll, or the death rates are not nearly as high as they were at the beginning, or professed to going to get to. It's looking more and more like they're running the course very similar to the flu, in that there are a lot of asymptomatic cases which are developing here too, where people show symptoms for the coronavirus residues within their bodies, when in fact those measurements may be false positives based upon faulty measurements, or based upon the fact that they've had colds in the past. The people that are the doctor that designed the very test that they're using said this is not to be used for determination of an illness. So, we have there's enough ammunition on both sides that people can fight however they want to fight. And I don't really want to take a stand in it. My life, other than the fact I can't get to the gym and work out, isn't really much changed. The rest of my family is. They go out, they can't go out and do a lot of the things they used to. But me, I've been pretty well, I would just say, in lockdown since I got out of the hospital in 2013. Very hard to restart a life after you've been flat on your back for many months. And there wasn't much left to come back to in terms of work and income generating things. So I've been working out of the house most of the time. So I am not one to speak and try to make a determination for other people. This is one that those on the front lines are going to have to decide for themselves. But those issues have been politicized now and made it so that the health issues are being determined based upon your political persuasion, where we're seeing Democratic governors and mayors that are on the front lines taking one set of stands, and we see Republican ones taking another set of stances. And the people are not being served. And all it's doing is making it so that we continue the fights that we've been having. The purpose behind all of this, of everything that I do, is to give you the tools to find peace in your time, and mostly, and besides your life, to have peace in your outer world, in how you conduct your affairs and in the affairs that you interact with. But right now, you don't have that. We don't have that. We are involved in this conflict, and we're all being dragged into it, or at least they're trying to drag us into it. And that conflict is creating more of a catalyst that's going to bring us to a point where we have to decide where we're going to go from here. Are we going to continue to fight to try to win? Or are we going to try to find a way to make the peace? Peace being the objective. Peace not at the expense of our rights or our futures, but a peace in terms of a way to reconcile our differences so that we can all move forward together to the futures that we want. That means that we have to have a certain degree of individuality and freedom. Even if it's only a matter of the freedom to decide how we're going to fit into the whole and what our contribution is going to be to it. And that is what life is really all about. And sometimes that contribution is go fight it out amongst yourself. I'm going to go off by myself. That's the Grizzly Adams type of thing that you would see when someone decides to just turn their back on society and go off and live in the mountains somewhere. But this conflict is a catalyst to empower us to change. How? We don't know yet, because that choice is going to be up to us. But it is a gateway through which we have to pass that's going to enable us to move into this new future. This status quo that talked about, that everybody seems to hate, is not a static thing. Everyone seems to think that the status quo is terrible. The status quo changes all the time. And all these fights, they help to change it. The things we do in our lives and how we evolve as our lifetime, that's what changes it most. But all this other stuff that's going on in the outer world, that's all part of the equation. So all of this is helping to move us in a new direction. But right now, there's conflict because the sides are pulling apart, but they're taking their shots at the other one because they feel they're holding them back. They're holding us all back. But not everybody wants to go where the ones that are pulling are trying to take us. So what we have to do is we have to figure out how we are going to resolve the conflicts among us over our affairs. Now, we've set up a system that allows that resolution by trading power based upon the results of an election. But with what I hear coming out of the Democratic Party is true, that they're not going to recognize the results of the election. They're already setting the stage to overturn it through lawfare in the courts. They're trying to interfere with the appointment of justices, which I can certainly understand that. That's all part of the game. But they've talked about stacking the court, which would be to add another 4 or 6 justices to it and bring the number up to, 15 from 9, in order that they could offset the conservative advantage that they have now, whereas the Democrats have been enjoying the advantage for 50 years, and now the momentum has shifted. So they want to change the rules because they can't win under the old rules at the moment. See, this is a matter of impatience that we as a people have. We want change now. We want everything now. That's perfectly normal because that's all we have is now. But the issue of now is not a matter of how we can change it into what we want it to be. It's how we can make it work where we are right now, at this point in time, this place on the continuum of our evolution. So, how are we going to go into this conflict and use it to advance the peace? I don't think the parties that are involved in the conflict are going to do very much for us along those lines. I think the only way that we can use it, the bystanders that are watching it and seeing it happen, is to draw strength from the light within us and to remember, and conflict is not a really good way of showing love to another person. I try to remind myself when I see these conflicts unfolding and people trying to drag me into them, that there is only one. God is in you. God is in me. God is in this desk that I'm sitting at. God is in the trees outside, in the rocks, in the world that we live in. God is in all things. It is His energy that makes up every source of this matrix. That's where we're going. And we can't fight our way there. So if we can't resolve our conflicts, we're going to stay around and fight a while. But you are awakening. You have become, maybe awakened. I don't know how far you've advanced on your journey. Maybe you're ready to ascend and just waiting for the rest of us to catch up. But you can't make where you want to go at peace, because peace is an essential to get where you want to go. We're in a dualistic world. Technically, or supposedly, we're supposed to be moving to a fifth dimension that is a non-dualistic world, where there is just the good guys or just the bad guys, so to speak. I don't know. I have no idea what's coming down the road. I hear the stuff that people say, but it really means nothing. But I do have a strong connection to God. I have a strong connection to the light within. And I know that how we have to live in order to pursue that connection is the same way that's going to bring us peace and is going to allow us to move forward together. We are not going to be able to get where we want to go by obliterating those who disagree with us. We have to not only learn to be more tolerant, but we have to be more allowing for others' differences, for the differences of opinion, the differences of belief, the differences of perspective, the differences of class and position and monetary abilities. All those differences, race, sex, all the things that we find as separate that they're using to drive us apart. Somehow we have to overcome those in order to move forward together. Because where we go one, we go all. We are all going back to the light, and we are all one. Yet within the illusion, within the matrix that we're here on earth, we're separate, pitted against each other, and we have to overcome that. So as you watch these hearings, start asking yourself, how can I find peace for myself within this situation? Am I going to find peace by advancing one side or the other? Or am I going to find peace by withdrawing or by saying, I trust that it's all going to work out and lead us to a better tomorrow? I'm personally one who believes that harmony goes farther than disharmony, but there is a time for disharmony. There is a role for that in catalyzing change. It is that disharmony with our lives that creates the catalyst by which we want to change them, by which we have new desires that we start acting upon and trying to bring about to lead us to something better, or not, depending upon what happens, because it's not up to us. The path that we're going on, all we can do is make the choice of the moment. We can't see how it's going to play out. But what I see right now is the choice of the moment is, are we going to find a way to move forward together, or are we going to be engaging in greater separation? Only when we come together will we begin to find the integration within ourselves, within the whole, the soul and the ego, that is going to allow us to pass through this conflict and to use the gateway that it offers, or that it opens, to advance ourselves on our journeys home as well as toward a better world. I don't espouse the spiritual path because of the spiritual destination. You're going to get there eventually. I'm just trying to get you the tools that you can do so in a better way, to drop the breadcrumbs of the spiritual path, so that you can use them in dealing with the outer world that is stealing your peace. And this weekend, or starting this weekend for the next 6 weeks, you're not going to find much peace when you turn on the news. They're going to be dust to demonize those on the other side and to scare you to death, to think that the world is going to end if they don't get their way. And I don't care which side it's on. The world isn't going to end, but it's just going in another direction. Things are going to continue to unfold. The changes that were started before Trump are going to be continuing long after Trump. This is a transitional period from the old world to the new, that we as light workers have to find a way to smooth the curve and bring others along. We're sort of like the traffic cops here. They're going to make sure everybody does their part in a way that's going to allow things to continue to unfold, so that the chaos and the conflict doesn't destroy everything in the process. Or you can sit on the sidelines and not use what you've developed and just watch it all burn. That's a choice that you have. It's a choice that we each are going to have to make. But you know me, I'm just here about giving you more ideas, giving you perspectives, so that you have more choices. Ultimately, it is about your choice of what ideas and perspectives that you're going to pour your energy into, and what you're going to do with them. And if you think the way forward to a better future is to go fight and try to destroy those who oppose you, whether you're part of what they see as the system or you're the ones opposing it, more power to you. I'm just going to sit back and watch. I am not interested in playing that game anymore. I do support one side, but I support it only to a certain extent. I am not out to destroy anyone. I am not out to ram my ideas down anyone's throats. I'm out to bring truth to people so that they know themselves and what their lives are about, and so they have more choice of how they conduct their affairs while they're here. Right now, we're going to see the worst of how some of those affairs are conducted. Hopefully, rather than exalting them and saying, "Yay, rock, go for our team," you'll look at that and say, that's not really aligned with what I believe or what I think is necessary for the kind of life I'm trying to create for myself. This is what it's about, to make you think, to make you go to the polls, or when you do interact with other people in your life. You are more than you were, that you are recognizing the oneness, that you are both the same, that you are all part of the same thing, and that it is a fight within the whole to decide which way it's going to go. And just like there are aspects of your personality that you don't like, that you would rather not be seen, and you kind of push them to the rear, there are going to be aspects of this whole thing that you're not going to like. But you have to decide where the energy goes. You have to decide what you want what you're going to bring into your world. You're going to have to decide whether you're willing to live in a state of upset for all these years, even though the chaos and conflict are going on all around you. Your peace is what's going to show them the way. Find your peace. Live it. Add your contribution. Add your creative energies to the collective consciousness that creates this reality. But do it in a way that allows you to love others as well as love yourself. That's all we can do. That's the best we can hope for in this moment. So I will leave you with what my characteristic guide left me with when he first introduced himself to me about 20 years ago. His name identified himself to me as Thor, the god of thunder that's working outside my window right now. Thor ended our conversation with, "Go with love." And I can't tell you, there is no better way to live your life than to go with love. My peace I give to you. God bless you indeed. I am John. Thank you for joining me today. Again, you can reach me at johndennison.com if you need to. Take care and enjoy the show. You have been listening to the Red Pill Chronicles, where we help awakening souls move in a better way through a blue pill world. For more information, visit us at peaceoptions.com to explore how you can find your peace through knowing yourself and following your inner voice. Or at missionlaunch.com, where we offer coaching and consulting to help you make the difference in your world.